Hello children, welcome back to the life class. Children, today we shall start with a new chapter. Chapter 7, The Last Leaf, written by O. Henry. Now before I start with the chapter, children, you can see the glossary, the word meanings of the chapter. You can note down or you can take a screenshot. It will help you to comprehend the chapter better. Now children, what we are going to cover today is of course about the writer in brief. We will also discuss the chapter in detail. At the same time, I would conclude the chapter with the theme and message. Now children, coming on with the story The Last Leaf. Children, The Last Leaf is a very interesting story. You will find the story has every element, has every values, which we shall further discuss in the chapter. Now children, the last leaf is associated, the last leaf, the entire story revolves around the last leaf. The last leaf is associated with two different values. It is associated with the ailment of the character John C. Right? Children, the last leaf is associated with the ailment of the John C. Right? And it is also associated with the positive impact, of hope, positivity, and revival. So you see, the entire story revolves around the last leaf. And children, as I was talking about that, we shall discuss about O. Henry. O. Henry is also known as William Sidney Porter. So like O. Henry is the nickname given to him because of his writings, because of his work. He became so wide famous. He became so wide famous in America, children. Why? Because of the climax of the story. Always you will find the stories of O. Henry. It has a very unique ending. The surprise is there in the climax of his story. So not only the last leaf, you must have read in your junior classes the story After 20 Years. He has written some very interesting plots, some very emotional plots. For example, if I talk about The Gift of the Magi, The Ransom of the Red Chief. So children, O. Henry, a very, very famous writer. And why he became famous? Because of the surprise which he puts at the end of his story. Now children, coming down to the story in detail, I hope you must have noted down the word meanings, the glossary, right? Now the story, children, deals with, first of all, let me tell you the characters you will find in the story. We have the character of Sue and John C. Right? Sue and John C are two good friends. They live together in a small flat. It's a rented flat, and they stay together in the third story. Of the flat. Children, Sue and John C, by profession, they are artists, right? And they are struggling. And battling in their profession. So the story is about Sue and John C, right? These two are good friends. They live in the third story of the building of the rented flat, and they are leading a very, I would rather say, abnormal life. They are not much happy with what life has given to them, as their life is too hard. They are they are facing and overcoming, lot many hardships in their life. They are still battling because they have not reached to that professionalism where they have got, good opportunities. So they are struggling in their life. We also find in the story the character Bearman. Bearman is a 66-year old man. 66-year-old man, and he too by profession is an artist. Now children, the similarity between Sue and Johnsy and Bearman, you find that Sue and Johnsy, though they are very young, but they have not attained that position, right? They are still struggling. Same is the condition with Bearman. Though he is 66-year-old man, he is also a struggling artist. He has a desire that he would make a masterpiece in his life. So children, Bearman has a passion, a desire to make a masterpiece before he dies. Now coming down to the story in detail. So then first of all, what you can do is you can have your books in handy so that you understand what is going on. So the very first point, as you can see, like Sue and Johnsy, if I talk about Sue and Johnsy. Sue and Johnsy are two young artists. Two young artists sharing one room. They stay or they live together in the third story of a rented flat. Their life is too hard. They are battling for their survival. Next, you will find in the next paragraph that Johnsy suffers from pneumonia. Children, before I discuss this part, can you see here pneumonia? I just pronounced the word pneumonia where I used this P. Generally what we say that P is silent. This is the fun of English language. Children, English is a non-phonetic language. It is not written the way it is spoken. Henceforth, P-N-E-U-M-O-N-I-A. It is not because only P is silent. It is because English is a non-phonetic language and it is not written the way it is spoken. It is not like Hindi, right? Now coming down to the second part, Johnsy suffers from pneumonia, right? That's pneumonia. Now children, it was the time, the month of November, as you can see there, it was the month of November, and Johnsy could not, take the chilled winters, and she suffered from pneumonia. Now children, Johnsy was suffering from pneumonia and Sue could not resist, as Sue and Johnsy were very good friends. So what Sue did, she consulted the best of the doctors so that Johnsy could be treated. So when the doctors came and diagnosed Johnsy, they came to a conclusion. The doctor came to a conclusion that Johnsy somewhere would not be treated, or it was rather impossible to treat Johnsy with medicines. Why so? Because somewhere Johnsy had made her mind, she had negative vibes running in her mind that she would not survive. So doctors clearly stated to Sue that it was impossible for Johnsy to survive, as somewhere in her subconscious mind she had negative vibes that she would not survive. Next you find children in the chapter, Sue comforted her. This is all like the key words I am using so that you understand better. Sue comforted her. Children, true friendship can be succored. S-U-C-C-O-U-R. True friends can be succored only during hard times. And children, since Sue and Johnsy were very good friends, Sue could not bear the pain Johnsy was undergoing. So she tried her level best to make her feel better. And she adopted, innovative ways just to bring smile and just to caress Johnsy so that she could revive fast. She tried her level best. Now what all she did? First of all, children, she tried to speak, certain things which would somewhere entertain or make her happy, right? So she tried good, or I would rather say positive words, interesting, odd things to bring smile in the face of Johnsy. She also spoke about fancy clothes, dresses, just to make somewhere, just to deviate or just to change the mind of Johnsy. She tried her level best. She also brought a board, and in that board, children, Sue tried to draw various things which would somewhere change the mind, change the mood of Johnsy. She sometimes used to draw funny things. She even tried to whistle while drawing certain things. But none of the efforts of Sue worked for Johnsy. Children, why it did not work? Children, it all depends, what you have thought to do. It is all in the psychological mind. It is all somewhere in the subconscious mind, which does not allow you to take things coming or positive things coming from elsewhere. So Johnsy somewhere had that negative vibes in her mind where all the efforts of Sue was going in vain. But as a true friend, as a devoted friend, Sue tried her level best to comfort Johnsy. Next we see the next point, Johnsy's strange fancy. What do we understand by this? Johnsy's strange fancy. Children, what happens here? As I said, Johnsy had somewhere thought in her subconscious mind, and she had started associating herself with the last leaf. Now children, the strange fancy of Johnsy was the ivy creeper, a plant which was just behind the window. And she started associating herself with that ivy creeper. That ivy creeper had leaves in it. And somewhere due to the season, children, November is the time, that is autumn season, and that is the time when trees shed their leaves. So ivy creeper was also shedding its leaf. And this girl Johnsy had a strange fancy because she had associated herself with those leaves. As the leaves were shedding, she thought accordingly, once the ivy creeper will be left with no leaf, she would die. So what she had done, she had somewhere associated herself negatively with regard to the ivy creeper leaves. And each moment she was counting the number of leaves. She had a habit that she had inculcated, that negative vibes were so much, she was so inclined towards the negative vibes that she had started counting backwards, children. 12, 11, 10, and as the leaves were falling, she was counting backwards, expecting that once all the leaves would fall, she would die. Then, children, when Sue saw her friend in that miserable and pathetic condition, she felt very depressed. She felt very bad. But as a true friend, she tried to manipulate, she tried to convince, she tried to bring positive elements in Johnsy. In today's time, children, it is very, very difficult to get a true friend like Sue. So what character trait we find Sue is trying to portray in the chapter is that value true friends. And if you have a true friend in life, you should value. This is very difficult, children, in today's time to get a devoted friend like Sue. So Sue, when she found Johnsy in a strange fancy, she tried her level best to convince that nowhere the last leaf was associated with her ailment, with her disease, or with her pneumonia. But Johnsy was not in a mood to accept the fact. Next, children, you find Sue met Bearman. Children, I had discussed about Bearman. Bearman again, once again, just to reinforce what I had explained rather just 5-7 minutes before. Bearman is a 66-year-old man, a struggling artist who has a desire in life that before his death he would create a masterpiece. So Sue met Bearman. Why? Now Sue could not resist the ongoing condition of her friend Johnsy. She was like in a terrible condition, and that Sue could not digest. Sue felt that now she has to come up with good assistance or a good help. So Sue felt that she should contact Bearman as he has more experience of life. So Sue went to Bearman, children, and she discussed the problem. She said that her friend Johnsy had somewhere associated herself with the last leaf. And children, due to the autumn season, the leaves had started shedding and almost all the leaves had shed. Now only one leaf was left, and you can understand what was the situation or what was going in the mind of Sue, where Johnsy had given up all her hopes. So children, Sue tried to revive those hopes, right? Sue tried to revive those hopes. Thus she went to Bearman to take his suggestion or seek help. So when she narrated the entire story to Bearman, she said that Johnsy had associated herself to the last leaf, and if that last leaf would fall, she would rather die. Bearman felt very bad, as he was a 66-year-old man and he could not see a young artist dying in such a pathetic or miserable way. So Bearman did not say anything. He was actually living in the ground floor. He did not speak much. Children, that night, it was terrible. Storm, it was a windy night and rain was falling, right? So like heavy showers, and the weather had gone very adverse, right? Now, Bearman had not said anything. What Bearman did, children, it was something remarkable. Now, number 6, Johnsy saw the last leaf. As I said, that Johnsy was awake. She looked out of the window and she found only one leaf out in that ivy creeper tree. She felt once the leaf would shed, once the leaf would fall, that would be the end of her life. Now children, that night, anyhow, Johnsy went to sleep. It was midnight. And now comes the main part of the story, children. Bearman went. It was a cold night. He immediately went out. He wore his jacket, shoes, everything perfectly all right. And children, what he did, he drew a leaf. He drew a perfect leaf of the same size what was there in the ivy creeper, and he stuck that that leaf in that ivy creeper tree. Right? So children, that leaf somewhere gave a hope. Next morning, when Johnsy woke up, she was surprised to see that the leaf had turned green. The storm, the wind, the disastrous weather could not, disturb or could not allow the leaf to fall. She regained, she revived, and looking at that last leaf, she felt relaxed, and now she felt that she should live. So that last leaf was a ray of hope. As I say, children, here you can note down also, it acted as a ray of hope. For whom? For Jhansi. Next, children, Jhansi accused herself. What does Jhansi, how does Jhansi react? Now, Jhansi was so happy that she called Sue and showed her that, can you see that even the wind has not created any disaster to the leaf? She was overjoyed to look at the leaf which had not fallen. Sue was also happy, she was overjoyed, and then Jhansi accused herself. Jhansi said that how negative she had been by not listening to Sue. She felt, she rather cursed herself for bringing those negative vibes in her. She spoke to Sue that how dishopeful she had become. And now she said that she would like to live. And children, no longer did she see that leaf. Energies, the positive energy came to her and she began to revive. So here she began to revive and she herself analyzed where she was wrong. She felt that somewhere she had gone negative, right? Next, children, the last part, number 8, Sue told Jhansi about Bearman. This is the climax of the story, children. Sue told Jhansi about Bearman. So when Jhansi was overjoyed and happy when Sue found that she had started, eating, taking soup, somewhere she was reviving. So she felt that it was the right time to speak the truth to Jhansi. Then Sue narrated the entire story, that how Bearman was lying dead in his room. She said that it was a cold night, and she also narrated the contribution of Bearman, that during that night, during that cold chilly night when it was raining heavily, this man went, painted a leaf and stuck there in that tree. So listening to the story, not story I would rather say, listening to the fact or listening to the truth of Bearman, Jhansi felt that somewhere she was very wrong. She had taken the wrong way of tackling the hardships of life. Children, what character trait does Bearman portray? Bearman portrays a sacrificing nature. Children, is it possible today to find anyone sacrificing their life for anyone else's sake? Not possible, children. But Bearman, since he was a 66-year-old man, he could understand that if Jhansi would die, it would be the end of her career. And this man was already 66-year-old. He felt rather he would sacrifice and give, another life to Jhansi. At the same time, children, as I had said, that Bearman always wanted to create a masterpiece. Don't you feel that by drawing that leaf, that particular leaf for Jhansi was a masterpiece? Yes, that was the masterpiece Bearman had created before his death. Children, whatever you desire in your life, if you are focused, right, somewhere you get or you achieve that. So Bearman always desired that he would create a masterpiece, and rather he got a golden chance of creating the masterpiece. Creating the masterpiece, children, not only leaf, it is a kind of metaphor. Leaf which revived Jhansi, which helped Jhansi to regain back to life. So children, as I said, O. Henry is very famous for bringing surprise emotions into all his plots and stories. Now children, before I wind up the chapter, now comes the most important part, that what have I learned? What are the values? If I have read the story of O. Henry and not inculcated certain good values in my life, then the story of O. Henry goes in vain. O. Henry, being a very great writer, has again tried to put forward various values after reading this story. So let me tell you what is the theme of the story. Children, if I am talking about the theme of the story, you can also write down if you want in the book itself. First, life is precious. Number 2, faith and hope should never be lost. Third, depression can lead to disaster. Children, this is a time, when this pandemic, right, has left an indelible mark in everyone's life. We are quite depressed, many of us. So children, depression can lead to disaster because it is a negative vibe. You will also find in the story true friendship can be succor in hard times. Two very important themes, children: friendship, and children, how can we forget the sacrifice of Berman? Sacrifice for else's sake. Sacrifice for else's sake. Someone else's sake. So children, these are the themes, or I would rather say themes coming from the story Last Leaf. Now, what message or what do we learn from the story? We learn from the story, children, first of all, we need to value our life. Life is not so easy. You will come across hurdles. Life is all about trials and tribulations. Life is never smooth. Life, you cannot expect only good things to happen. So when you are undergoing hard times, you should be stable. You should not lose hope. Right, children? You should always have the positive attitude towards life, how to deal situation. Instead of giving up, we should try to inculcate hope, resilience, faith. At the same time, children, situation could be adverse, situation could be difficult. That does not mean that I will get depressed and keep on thinking about the problem. Rather, I should try to find a solution towards the problem. What more we find? We also find that the best time to judge a true friend is a circumstance. If the circumstance you come across is very difficult and you find your friend is there with you, that means you have a good friend, and a good friend should be valued. Next, children, friendship. Sometimes, children, we are very practical in our life. We try to avoid friendship because we don't trust anyone. So here, friendship also plays a very important in our life. And the most important one, sacrifice for else's sake. Have that in you. Sacrifice does not mean giving up your life. Sacrifice could be in other ways also. So we should think selflessly sometimes for others, not always thinking about ourselves. Had Berman thought about his life, children, John C. would not have been there. So what he did, he sacrificed his own life just to save someone else. So children, the story The Last Leaf, I guess somewhere is one of the most interesting story which has strong values behind it. The story has given us many values to be inculcated in our life. Thank you, children. Watch the video and read the chapter. Thank you and have a nice day.